G'day guys, it's Logan from Aricks here, and today we're back out at the Briggs' farm following up on some trial parts that we installed pre-sowing. I'm here with Tom. So Tom, introduce yourself and tell us about yourself and your farm.
Yeah, Tom Briggs, farm just west of Rutherglen in the northeast of Victoria with my father Colin. We're across about 1,000 hectares between owned, leased and share farm. Run about a 75% land use for livestock and 25% land use for cropping, and also run a side contracting business with the disc seeder across about 600 hectares a year. The home operation is full stubble retention, do pastures, small seeds and the a full variety of crops for clients. And we've had the disc seeder since 2017.
All right, Tom, so what type of crops did you plant this year?
As far as cash crops, the trial, where we did the trial components, was a companion grazing canola and oats, just oats, wheat, triticale, and then for some clients, small seeds, small pasture seeds, permanent pastures and canola.
So Tom, you've been using a John Deere disc seeder since 2017.
Yep.
Talk me through why you chose a John Deere disc seeder.
At the point in time, one was cost of purchase, which was economical. What I also liked about the research I did into the John Deere was that there was ability to put aftermarket parts on. I've done majority of the disc changes myself, small bearings here and there and a bit of modification. But one of the major reasons we went with the John Deere was that when it got to a point of rebuild, that it wasn't my time spent on the tools under the machine doing the work, that I knew that there would be something that would be able to outsource to people who were thorough and professional at it, which meant that I could get other work done and potentially wasn't doing an inferior job of the service, that the pros were coming in and it was something that I didn't have to spend the time thinking about. So a huge selling point was that there was a service provided out there that meant that we could get maintenance done, or the big maintenance, was something that someone else could do.
Tom, let's talk about some of the challenges that your crops have faced this year, and in particularly this trial plot.
Very dry start to the year, which meant time of crop establishment when we finally got the rain was very late. Then we fell into frost and cool weather, and a lot of crops emerged with a lot of earth mite pressure. Meant that we did a lot of dry sowing this year, which meant disc performance and stubble cutting wasn't a challenge this year. But this specific trial paddock where we did bolt on the Aricks wheel wasn't necessarily in the most challenging of cutting conditions, but we still saw the benefit and the performance of the row being cleared off, and in more challenging circumstances you could definitely see where they would be of benefit. But then the crop itself was a companion crop of grazing canola and oats, and with the earth mite pressure that was coming very fast, the grazing oats established outside, by the time it rained, established outside its ideal time of sowing. Earth mite pressure, just the canola didn't establish, so we've ended up with an oat crop here, but it was still interesting to see a few of the extra Aricks components on it and seeing how in some thick residue, not chaffy residue, but in thick residue, how the Aricks wheel still moved it on. But we've since had rain, which has brought the oat crop through, which is a beauty of the companion. Would have been nice to have a bit more moisture to really put the Aricks wheel and really show that one through, but certainly just in its straight up performance was evident to see what its capacity was.
The question is, rebuild a drill or buy a brand new one? What are your thoughts?
In line with the reason to buy the John Deere was to have someone who could come in on my equations. It was more, whilst we initially had repayments, it was going to be more economical in time to rebuild. When we bought the machine back in 2017, while it was on finance, we were spending about $30,000 a year on repayments. Most years was a disc change, the odd bearing here and there, but once we got back to what I'd call a 2/3 rebuild on our machine after 8 years of operation, that came in less than a repayment on the machine. Once you own the machine, the economics of rebuild, providing it's still the desired width of machine and all that sort of stuff, it stacks up to keep rebuilding it, and it's rebuilding it into a state that is as good as, well, it's better than it came off the showroom floor. So straight up finances, rebuilding, as opposed to wear it out, go buy a new machine. For us, it's rebuild every day of the week.
So post rebuild, did you notice any subtle differences in row spacing or accuracy or emergence?
Yeah, definitely. It's one of those things you probably get used to how the machine's performing over a while, and until you see it back in true state, it really stands out. So amazing this year to have that. The eye doesn't deceive you. It was pure even spacing again. I didn't think that our main pins and closing wheel pin and bushes were too bad. And there was some movement in them, but it was amazing to actually see that main pin come back to a new state, and the closing wheel, how it straightened the row up. And we're wondering if it was heavy wet soils, that we were just always going to face challenges in closing the seed slot. But yeah, amazing to see, once everything's running true again, that closing wheel has come back into where you would expect it to, and getting essentially accuracy at depth of seed placement again, plus getting a true running of the closing wheel, giving us a closed seed slot. So yeah, amazing to see where you got used to the machine performing to where it actually came back to after the rebuild. It was back to a perfect operation again. And some of the other parts too, our boots, because we have been thorough on the disc changing, we hadn't worn the boots off, but just simply putting the oversized boot, which was a nice little touch from the Aricks guys, that if the boot wasn't physically worn, to still take some of that play out of the boot, stop some of that boot chatter and bounce. You could see, we're starting to see seed escape out of the seed slot over the last couple of years. Everything was back in line again, holding firm with the top of the soil. So certainly brought it back to what you remember it actually being at the start of its operational life. Some of the other parts which were cool to see, again, typically it was in muddy conditions, wet conditions, where you possibly shouldn't be planting, and you're asking the machine to do more than it's capable of, which is probably centered around closing the seed slot. I got financially motivated one day and essentially made a Pro Series closing wheel out of our factory smooth cast closing wheels, and putting a couple of the 20-point crumbler wheels on from you guys, the narrower profile. Whilst it still did accumulate a little bit of mud, we still had the top of the tooth penetrating through that, and you could see that physically closing the slot, as opposed to where our Pro Series would build up with mud and essentially just be a tyre running along the ground. And also the polyurethane press wheel, it's mud shedding ability, as opposed to another competitor where we were having issues with mud building up on the gauge wheel side and jamming and blocking discs. So good to see what are typically our challenging conditions in our soils is mud, that there are some solutions out there that will improve the performance again. So yeah, very interesting to see. And bolting it on the machine, you can't hide it once it's on it. It's chalk and cheese.
To summarise, Tom, how would you describe your experience with the Aricks components and the people?
Components, you only got to look at the development that's gone into them over time and see them perform. That high quality components and fit for the purpose. Can't speak highly enough of Aricks and the team. The guys that came out on site, there was just some small stuff that, there wasn't a blow-in, blow-out would do the job. When the frame was jacked up to do the change, just going around and checking the frame the frame bearings on the transport tyres, and then also for us, well, for anyone, if you're working on a budget, it wasn't, we come in and we'll only do these bits. Like Glenn was the one who came out and did our job, and going through and finding a couple of small parts will replace this. So the ability to be to fix the necessary but pick up on the small stuff as well, yeah, made for overall a really positive experience, and backed up the initial decision to buy the John Deere, that there was someone out there, once they actually come on farm, it's yeah, you won't second guess it again. So after them actually being, the guys being out on farm doing the work, the initial decision to buy, there were multiple reasons we went with the John Deere. One was knowing that we had a service out there that would do it, seeing them come in and back up what you believe to be the process. It was just a positive experience, and one that you'll just go back for again.
Well, Tom, thanks for sharing your experience with us today. We really appreciate it.
No worries.
And thanks guys for watching. We'll see you next time.